So we all hit those points in life, right? Where
Yeah.
it just feels like the path forward is, well, blocked. Maybe it's something with your career, relationship hits a snag, or maybe it's just that, that feeling of being stuck. There's this really universal desire, I think, to clear that stuff out, to
Yeah.
overcome those obstacles and really open things up, find a way forward. And today, in this deep dive, that's exactly what we're exploring. Our mission is to look into some really fascinating practices designed precisely for that, clearing blockages, inviting success, and you'll see we've got a pretty interesting mix of sources. Everything from traditional sort of road opening magic to a very specific Christ-centered ceremony, and even some history from angelology. It's quite a range.
That's right. And the goal isn't just to list them off. We want to actually unpack the elements, understand the intentions behind them, their history. We really want to show how these very different traditions, sometimes from completely different belief systems, often tap into the same basic human hopes. Progress, clarity, just breaking free. You should get a really comprehensive picture by the end, not just the what, but the why these things resonate.
Yeah, it does make you wonder, doesn't it? What are the common threads? And what makes them unique? How people historically and even now try to actively, well, open roads in their lives. Okay, let's dive in. Let's unpack this. So let's start with what's often called road opening magic. You sometimes hear the term abre camino magic. At its core, this is really about removing obstacles, yeah? Getting rid of the things holding you back, and quite literally opening up paths to, say, success, money, new chances. What's interesting to me is how it taps into that need we all have for agency. It gives you a sort of tangible way to put your intentions out there and feel like you're actively participating.
Exactly. And Abre Camino, the name itself, actually refers to a specific herb, a bitter one, apparently. It's used specifically for this opening roads, whether that's for love or success, good fortune, whatever it might be. And these practices, they often kick off with some kind of purification. Think spiritual baths or using salt to energetically, clear the decks, prepare the space.
And the visual aspect is important too, isn't it? Candles are big. They sort of symbolize clarity, guidance. You often see specific colors used, like vibrant orange, that's for action, right? And gold for prosperity, green for growth, for abundance, helps focus the mind.
Definitely. And besides the Abre Camino herb itself, you see other things used too, like quasi bark, lemongrass, pine. They get incorporated. And there's often a road opener oil. These aren't just symbolic decorations. People use them to anoint the candles or even put them in those ritual baths, really infusing things with intent. A lot of practitioners will also use specific chants or prayers, aiming to kind of call in the desired outcome and, well, clear that path.
You know, what I found interesting is that some sources point out that road opening isn't always purely mystical. It can also mean like creating a practical plan, steps you're going to take to reach your goals.
Yeah.
So it's this blend almost of the spiritual and the pragmatic,
Yeah.
Belief plus action, plus that focused visualization of things opening up.
That blend is key, I think. And in some traditions, people work with specific deities too. Like in the certain Afro-Caribbean faiths, you might see invocations to figures like Elegba or Babaluai, Ocean, asking for their help in removing obstacles, creating opportunities. They act as conduits for that energy.
And you see this reflected in the rituals. A common one is a candle ritual, right? Where you dress the candle with the road opener oil. Then maybe you write down the obstacles on paper, put it under the candle. As it burns, you visualize those things just dissolving, clearing away.
Or the herbal bath idea, using Abre Camino and other herbs in a bath to kind of physically wash away those energetic blockages you feel are there.
Yeah.
There's also a neat stone ritual sometimes mentioned. You anoint little stones with the oil, arrange them like a path leading to a candle, visualizing each stone breaking down a barrier as you place it. It's really a multifaceted approach. Abre Camino magic combines spiritual work, symbols, focused intention, helps people face challenges.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit. Let's look at something profoundly different on the surface, but maybe thematically linked. This is a Christ-centered ceremony involving the Archangel Sachiel. The goal is similar, removing obstacles, opening doors, but the whole framework, the method, it's very distinct. It's highly structured. Ideally done during a Jupiter hour or on a Thursday. Severing emphasis on a clean, quiet, prayerful space.
Yeah, the intentionality in the setup is really striking. For instance, they use olive oil, but it's consecrated first. By praying Psalm 23 over it multiple times, specifically asking for obstacle removal. And the same thing is done for a chosen herb. Frankincense, too, gets prayed over asking God for it to be a sweet smell, basically, and asking for its power to remove obstacles before it's even lit. Very deliberate.
And there are these 4 tea lights placed precisely in an equal-armed cross shape around a main central candle. These and the main candle get smudged with that prayed-over frankincense smoke, then lit with reverence. The main candle, often blue or white, is dressed with the consecrated oil and herb, smudged again, and then prayed over using Psalms 24, 65, and 121. Each one repeated 3 times, followed by specific requests to clear obstacles. Every little piece has its place.
Right. And key items include things like a Bible or a cross placed above the candles. And importantly, the blue sigil of Sachiel, that's like his symbolic signature. It gets smudged with the frankincense and respectfully put under the main candle. They might even have blue food and drink as offerings, aligning with Sachiel's traditional color. Prayer beads are smudged too, used for affirmations. It's this intricate setup, all aimed at spiritual focus.
The ceremony itself kicks off with the Lord's Prayer, sets that Christ-centered tone right away. Then Psalm 23 is prayed over the frankincense before it's lit, asking again for the aroma to please God and help remove obstacles. Once it's lit, that smoke is used to smudge everything: the Sachiel sigil, the candles, the oil, the herb, the prayer beads. Each item is sort of consecrated and brought into the ritual space.
What's really noticeable is how humble the invocation is. The main request is to the Most High God, creator of heaven and earth, and it's explicitly made in the name and authority of Jesus Christ, asking God to send Sachiel. It stresses, not by my might, nor by my own spiritual power, but by your Spirit, Lord. So the focus is totally on divine will, not personal power.
Yeah, and then there's this really quite poetic address directly to Sachiel, calling him Radiant One, Prince of Peaceful Power, asking him to bring blessings, wisdom, righteous abundance. It culminates by calling Sachiel a servant of the living God, subordinate of El, making sure everything points back to Jesus Christ. It's very deferential, prayerful.
Optional offerings might be given, then bread, wine, maybe those blue foods spoken as a sign of peace and gratitude. Again, always in the name of Jesus Christ. And while that main candle burns, a specific petition is made to remove obstacles, asking God directly to send Sachiel to remove every obstacle that stands in the way of your purpose for my life.
And that petition is pretty specific, asking for walls to fall, doors to open, paths cleared, but always with that condition: not by my command, but by your authority alone. The closing line to Sachiel asks him to remove hindrances, guide steps, but again emphasizes his ministry is to the glory of the Father in full submission to Jesus Christ, Lord of hosts.
Exactly. Then it wraps up with thanksgiving, a final blessing, and releasing Sachiel, thanking him for his obedience and ministry in accordance with his will, ensuring all glory goes to God through Jesus. It's a very complete, devout practice for seeking help.
So, okay, that naturally leads to the question, who exactly is this Sachiel? In Kabbalistic and Christian angelology, these systems of understanding angels, he's seen as an archangel. From the order of cherubim, apparently, his name first seems to appear in a grimoire, which is basically an old magic textbook from the late 1500s called the Heptameron.
Interestingly, yeah, his name's got quite a history. There are earlier mentions, like on these mid-12th century birch bark things from Novgorod, spelled like Sachiel or Six-Ale, sometimes invoked against disease back then. Then later in books like the Oath-Bound Book of Honorius, maybe late 1200s, the name is Sachiel. That form seems to have evolved from an even earlier Jewish occult book, Sefer Raziel Hamalek, from the early 1200s.
Right, and Sefer Raziel itself seems a bit flexible with spellings. It lists Sachiel, Sachiel, and Sachiel. And it looks like it's that last one, Sachiel, that eventually led to Sachiel and the Heptameron. It really shows how these names and ideas morph over time and across different, mystical paths.
Definitely. And in terms of what he's associated with, Sachiel consistently pops up linked to Thursday. And, fitting for our topic, with wealth and charity, he's also very strongly connected to the planet Jupiter, which in astrology often symbolizes things like expansion, abundance, good fortune. Makes sense for opening paths.
That Jupiter connection feels pretty key, doesn't it? In some, New Age angel circles, Sachiel might be invoked for things involving money, finance, law, politics, religion, all areas where you might be looking to, open a path or find a resolution. His sigil, that unique symbol, even shows up in major historical texts like Francis Barrett's The Magus from the early 19th century and The Complete Book of Magic Science from the 16th. So he's been around in these esoteric traditions for a while.
So, okay, wrapping this part up a bit, we've looked at 2 really distinct ways of approaching road opening, though they share that core theme. We started with the more general practices of Eber Camino magic, the herbs, the cleansing, the visualization, that blend of spiritual and practical. And then we dove into this very structured, Christ-centered Sachiel ceremony, packed with specific prayers, psalms, a very humble, reverent way of invoking angelic help. While the spiritual frameworks, the rituals themselves, are worlds apart in some ways, the fundamental aim is strikingly similar. Clear out the blockages, invite positive results.
Yeah, and some of those details really stick with you, don't they? Like the
Yeah.
specific bitter Abre Camino herb or thinking about those candle colors, orange, gold, green. And then on the flip side, the incredible detail in the Sachiel ceremony. Those specific Psalms 23, 24, 65, 121, the act of smudging the blue sigil. Even tracing how Sachiel's name changed over centuries and his link to Jupiter, wealth, charity. It just highlights the depth and creativity involved.
Absolutely. And what really stands out, looking at both, despite all the differences, is that common thread: focused intention, active visualization, and some kind of ritual action. Doesn't matter if it's folk magic or a devout Christian ceremony. These practices give people a structure, a tangible method to focus their will, focus their energy, and actively try to invite change. They offer a way to grapple with those blockages and try to generate momentum.
It really does broaden your perspective on how people try to, well, shape their own destiny, doesn't it? So, thinking about all this, what does it mean for you listening? How might understanding these different approaches change how you see challenges?
Yeah, and maybe this raises a final kind of important question to ponder. If that desire to overcome obstacles, to open pathways is so universal, what does the sheer diversity of the methods tell us? From anointing little stones with oil to invoking specific angels through incredibly detailed Christian prayers. What does that variety say about how complex belief is and how multifaceted our sense of human agency is when we're facing life's challenges? Something to think about.